right on the first take.
Right.
It was, there it is. This is going to be the latest.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's got a super foam in it.
Yeah.
It's got a carbon plate. It's light. It's bouncy.
are we allowed to show this right now on camera?
I don't know. I never got approval for it.
I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out, yeah. Hello, runners, and welcome to another exciting episode of Mr. Rubio Used to Run, the Running Warehouse podcast. I'm Mr. Rubio, the co-host. My other co-host is sitting across from me, the Rick James of running, our very own super freak, Connor Blaylock.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to get freaky today.
It's freaky.
And, I mean, we've had a wild summer. Me and you have been going all around, but really, this is the summer of Joe.
I don't know if it's the summer of Joe. It's there's a lot going on. The last couple of weeks, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
So, cry me a river, but some of the things that we do to take one for the team is the North Face invited me to go to the UTMB. And for those that don't know what the UTMB is, it is basically the King Super Bowl of ultra trail racing. Mm-hmm. It's in Chamonix, France, which is at Mont Blanc. So the UTMB stands for Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. It's a 176 kilometer race, 32,000 feet of climbing, 2,500 runners, and it's, if you can imagine the Tour de France for running, trail running, that's it. Eric and Becky were along for the ride. They're a couple of our buyers. And they were with Solomon. And they did something I wasn't willing to do, which was go up a mountain at 2 a.m. with 3,000 other knuckleheads. And people had road flares. And I talked to a guy who was getting claustrophobic because there's so many people just on top of him. And people were bringing up techno music, and it's just crazy. This is like 2 or 3 a.m. And this is the whole race course, is thousands and thousands of people at all hours of the day going crazy. And there's 7 races throughout the week. And when I was at the finish line on Saturday, there's a thing, PTL or something like that. It's not really a relay. It's more like a centipede. So you have X number of people. They have to run together. You can't lose anybody. But they started on Monday. And these guys were finishing on Saturday. So that's one race. You have another race that's 150 kilometers. You have 100-kilometer race. You have 50-kilometer race. The I don't know if it's even sane. It's the 15-kilometer race is straight uphill. Yeah. You have 2 youth races. You have one for sponsors. It's crazy, and the whole town is just a bunch of skinny geeks walking around and running stuff all week. It's awesome.
Yeah. And just from the pictures and videos I saw, it's crazy. I don't think there's anything like that anywhere in the world, especially not in America. That would be cool to get something of that caliber and that excitement here in the States.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult to do just because most of the parks and everything limit the race sizes to 200 or 300 people.
Right.
So, I mean, you could theoretically see Western states having something like that, but you can't because there's only a couple hundred people running. Yeah. And you can't get to all places on the course. But it's nuts, and it's so cool. You know, I'm not a trail guy by any means, but I'm a sports guy. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was mentioning, because when I went with North Face, I went with a guy named Ken Taylor and Mike and 3 guys from a company called Outdoor 76 out of Franklin, North Carolina. So an outdoor store. So there's 4 of us from the USA that went with the North Face. So we hooked up with the Outdoor 76 guys in Chamonix. And it was just really, really fun. I mean, Ken is getting ready for the New York City Marathon, and we're going all over the place. So the first place, he picked me up at the Geneva airport, him and Mike, and then we went to Ancy, and we stayed there for a couple of nights. And those who have been to Ancy know it's not like a horrible spot. It's actually pretty nice. But Ken is getting ready for New York, so he's training. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to leave, I want to say on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And the lady shows up at 11 o'clock. But Ken is out doing like an hour and a half, hour, 45-minute run. And he comes in at about 5 to 11 to take a shower and pack. So he's just like all wet. So in the meantime, I walk down the street and picked up a ham and cheese sandwich because he mentioned he liked ham and cheese sandwiches. But you definitely want something to eat after a run like that when you don't have time to go grab something because it's just chaos there.
Yeah.
So we went from there to Chamonix, and then the other thing that Ken did was when we were leaving, we had to leave by 7 o'clock in the morning. He did mile reps. He left the house at 4:30 in the morning to go do mile reps. That's just, I wasn't willing to do that.
That's one way to sleep on the plane.
Yes, exactly. So, but UTMB is just, it's just an awesome thing. So some of the things that we did when we were in Ancy was we went to a company called All Triangles.
Okay.
And it's a company of 13 guys, 13 people. Really cool spot. But they're skunk works for all outdoor stuff for the North Face.
Yeah.
So one of the shoes that they showed us was recently individual. He did the fastest ascent up K2, and they showed us all the prototypes that they went through to build his shoes, which are really cool.
Yeah.
And all the different stuff that they're building. And one of the shoes that we received on this trip is the Endurance 4, and that comes out in January or February. But they had initial samples that they did back in 2021 for a 2025 shoe.
Wow.
So I was looking at stuff that I can't even mention that is coming out in 3 or 4 years. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the skunk works of the running space, if you think back to the 1960s with Lockheed, the secretive SR-71, that was, no one knew about at the time. They actually put together a false front trucking company to get these planes around the country very secretively. Now, the prototype that you received on this trip did not come from a secretive trucking company. It came commercial mail. And what happened to this prototype?
I don't know if it's a prototype. It's an early production sample.
Okay.
But it was an Endurance 4, and I had left. I don't know. I left before the shoe arrived. So Ken was supposed to update the shipping to expedite shipping, and it didn't happen. Yeah. So it showed up like the Tuesday afterwards. Jasmine, who's in charge of our customer service here, was kind enough to ship the shoe FedEx second day to Ancy, which is fine, except the place we were staying was like at the base of a castle, and it had a moat and a gate and everything. There wasn't actually a doorstep, and I put in the instructions for the FedEx guy to call me when he got there because it was going to get stolen. There's hundreds and thousands of people walking in front of where our gate is. And sure enough, I look at the tracking stuff, and it was dropped off an hour ago. Well, that thing disappeared. Yeah.
Some drunk college kid now has one of the fastest trail running shoes.
Or somebody that's in line. But so the Skunk Works thing, and another interesting thing I learned about Ancy is there's over 300 outdoor brands, and running's part of outdoor, that are based in Ancy. They have representation in Ancy. 300. Ancy's a pretty small town. And I was asking the guys there why there was 300 brands there. And it's because Salomon back in the 70s was the brand, the outdoor brand, number one on the planet. And they would have people come in and visit their operation. And the other smaller brands throughout France that wanted people to come visit them, well, we're going to Salomon. Salomon's in Ancy. So if you want to see the people that are going to go see Salomon, someone like possibly us, it's a lot easier when you put a office in Ancy, so it's a couple blocks away. So actually where All Triangles is literally a couple blocks from Hoka's offices in Ancy and Solomon's offices in Ancy. And I mean, there's people all over the place, but it's really cool. I mean, if you're really into Skunk Works kind of things, it was fantastic. And the interesting thing was I asked them if they knew Jeff Gray, and they said, no, we don't know Jeff Gray. I said, because it's interesting. He does a lot of the same stuff that you do, not exactly the same, but real similar. Mm-hmm. And I said, they go, where's he work? I said, a company called Helix. They go, oh, Dr. Gray. Yeah, we know Dr. Gray. And I texted Jeff while I was there. I said, yeah, I'm at All Triangles. And he says, I just got a North Face shoe to test. And I was talking to these guys, and they said, yeah, we just got the North Face shoe back that we're going to test tomorrow. So both in Santa Barbara and in Ancy, they're testing the new North Face shoe. And I'll tell you right now that their stuff is spectacular. The North Face trail shoes. I actually have one here.
Yeah, I mean, pull that off. I mean, North Face, they've been on the rise the last few years because they were early on with the carbon plated trail, but they didn't quite get it right on the first take.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah, this is the Endurance 4.
So this is going to be the latest.
Yeah,
and I mean,
it's got a super foam in it.
Yeah.
It's got a carbon plate. It's light. It's bouncy.
Are we allowed to show this right now on camera?
I don't know. I never got approval for it.
I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah. But I mean, this is going to be, I want to say 150.
Wow.
149? Maybe no, 159.
Yeah. And there'll be different takes similar to the North Face line over the years. That'll be, your trainer, your performance, your race, and different types of racing.
This one is very stable, light, really bouncy.
Yeah.
At $160, it's a home run.
Yeah.
I'm calling this the trail shoe of 2025 already.
Wow.
I mean, it's really good.
Cool.
Everything is going up against at that same price range. Has some sort of EVA midsole.
Yeah.
Getting a super foam and a carbon plate.
And doing it right, too.
And doing it right.
That's the tough part.
And I told North Face I wouldn't have been on that trip if we didn't collectively believe in their product.
Yeah.
Because across the board, all of our buyers are just saying it's the strongest trail line in the market that we've seen. It's fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying a lot, too, from our buyers really coming from the trail space, Yeah, that's exciting to see North Face.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure until I tried them on.
Yeah.
And I was walking around in them a lot, and they felt fine until I actually ran them.
Yeah.
So, holy smokes, these things look good.
Yeah.
Just really good.
Right.
Really fun to run in.
Right.
And I don't do much trails, but, I'll give them a go on the trails. They're fantastic.
Yeah. So you met the All Triangles guys.
Yeah.
Who else are you seeing on this trip?
Let's see. I went out and had a cappuccino with Alec Jessman. He used to be at Saucony.
Yes.
He recently got hired to work alongside Jean-Luc at Deckers. So he's in the middle of making a new innovation lab for Deckers. So it's kind of, if you can imagine, Deckers is the parent company for Hoka, parent company for Anu, parent company for UGG, and a few other brands. And so each one of those brands will have their own innovation department, and there's going to be an overriding, where Jean-Luc and Alec will be doing some innovating and seeing, whichever brand wants to incorporate whatever they develop into their brand, it's going to be available. But he started geeking out Alec did on his new lab that he said should be done in February.
Yeah.
And he invited us down to go down and check it out.
Well, we met up with Alec probably 2019.
Yes.
And we went to the Saucony lab, and he showed us, and what they had there was phenomenal. But he's a numbers guy. I remember we started talking off camera, and I was like, that's great. We got to take that down one notch for the normal person.
Yeah.
But, oh, my God, brilliant guy. Love talking everything.
I went out to lunch with him in Santa Barbara a couple of weeks ago just to introduce myself. And then, he is a complete numbers guy. But then you combine him with Jean-Luc, who's more artistic, emotional, visionary type of guy.
Yeah.
They should come up with some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Okay.
I did see Jean-Luc at the finish line. and
he's basically the mayor of this town.
He's a mayor of this town. But the other thing, too, is the guy who won, Vincent, worked alongside Jean-Luc as innovation at Hoka.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy used to live in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, we know Vincent.
Yeah, I know. He's been in meetings with us and stuff like that. And I'm looking around and I go, holy smokes, the guy that was sitting in the meeting, he still works full-time for Hoka. He's not sponsored or anything.
It's wild.
I mean, he ran awesome. And, we were watching live coverage on YouTube TV, which I didn't know was a thing. Apparently it's a thing. But you can watch live coverage of the UTMB in all these different languages. But if you ever see video of what these people are doing, like, it is rocky. And it's steep, and these people are like at 70 miles just bouncing up and down over these rocks, and not I'd be done.
Yeah,
I kill myself on that stuff. But I mean, it is really impressive that they're running at that speed, that far into a race over some really technical terrain.
Yeah,
and then you got people that are just screaming and going crazy.
And I'd say probably majority, if not all, know what they're getting themselves into, because this is not a course you want to mess around.
No, and you
on.
you have to qualify too.
Yeah,
there's qualifying races for everything that you want to do there, even the 50K.
Right.
You have to complete. They have a bucket list, and you have to complete one to participate.
Yeah.
But it's
brutal.
It's brutal.
The best runners in the world are getting taken out. Jim Walmsley finally got his win there last year, but
this course, if you think about it, Western States is 100 miles. This is 106 or 107 miles.
Yeah.
So 6 or 7 miles farther. And it takes the same runners who run whatever, like Katie.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what she ran at Western States, but I think she ran 17 hours.
Sounds
maybe
about
16
right.
or 17 hours.
Yeah.
She ran 6 hours slower at
Yeah.
UTMB. And same thing with Walmsley.
Yep.
You know, he were 14 hours there at Western States. And, 20 hours. It's brutal. 32,000 feet of climbing is a lot of climbing.
Yep.
I don't know. That's a lot of driving. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't know either, and I will never know.
No. The other part of this trip was I was talking with Danny Orr.
Yes.
Just before I was going to go to France, about 2 weeks before, and mentioned that I was going to go to UTMB, and he says, "What are you doing the week before?" And I said, "I don't know." Why? He goes, "Well, I'm going to be in Portugal with my family. You want to stop by and visit?" I said, "Sure. That sounds like a pretty good idea." So I wouldn't advise it, but the night before I was leaving, I had a 6 o'clock flight on a Monday. I got that set up at the last second. And I made my hotel reservations and my plans the night before, Sunday at about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So first town, I landed in Lisbon, and then I rented a car. I went to Ericeira, which was a really cool town, narrow streets, cobblestones, awesome food. And then I went to Peniche and spent 3 days there with Danny and his family.
Yeah. Did Danny leak any New Balance secrets? Is there anything you
No,
learned?
he was off the radar. He's pretty good about putting the phone away.
Yeah.
When he's on vacation.
Yeah.
Particularly when he's with his family. His wife was there too.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not on that.
And
Work thing.
did you guys get any running in?
I got running in, but not with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was with his family a large part of it, and I just didn't want to interrupt.
Right.
So I spent one afternoon with them at the beach, and then went to dinner with them, and then the next day I just kind of hung out and then drove around. Noticed that most of the tennis courts in Portugal are clay.
Yep.
And same thing in France, which is probably why they're better at clay tennis than we are.
Yeah.
Because we play in cement anyway. So, but Portugal, for those that are thinking about going to Portugal, it's much like San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
Same topography, same weather. Surfing is everywhere. I made a stupid mistake of trying to go to Navarre, which has the largest surf waves on the planet. Except I went on a Saturday afternoon, the last day of holiday, at about 1 o'clock, and the car couldn't move because there's too many people. So I'm going to go back again at some point in my life and go on a Wednesday morning at 7, when there shouldn't be any people there, and maybe not go during that time of the day. But incredibly affordable. I went to a dive bar, which I'm pretty good about finding dive bars. Had a steak sandwich and a beer, and it was €4. €4.
Wow.
I went to the grocery store to get a baguette, 46 cents. It's just the whole city or the whole country costs next to nothing.
Yeah.
And there's no crime there either.
Yeah.
But that's why Danny's parents moved there from South Africa, because the cost of living is so low. And they have some other things going on. But anyways.
So you made your way back to the U.S.
I did. I went to Atlanta first.
Okay.
Checked out. We are opening a new retail location in the suburb of Atlanta.
Okay.
So I went to check that out, and then had some meetings with our staff. And it was a quick trip. And came back here. Yep. And then I've been here for, I don't know, a week or two or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've had some trips though.
A little bit, not quite as exciting as your world adventures.
Yeah, but you're bouncing back on this whole racing thing, so.
And we're back.
Yeah,
we're back in the mix. We're training hard. We're getting fit. I made a trip down to San Diego for a week and got back my first race in 5 years. Which it's always hard to make that step back into the racing. You know, you feel that pain. You feel that.
I know.
That we're back in it.
Break the rust.
Yeah, so training's been going really well.
Good.
The tempos are solid. The fartleks, doing a lot of unstructured stuff right now. And I think ended up coming in 13th place in the race, pretty competitive field. So I'll take it as a win for the first one back. And now we've got a couple more road races, a couple half marathons. And now it's just like, let's see what we can do.
Well, explain that race you did at Balboa Park. Yeah, I mean, you're part of that San Diego cross-country series, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I unofficially ran under San Diego Track Club. I had an old school, I think it was like a 1980s San Diego Track Club
of course you did.
on.
Yeah.
And I think everyone there thought I was part of the track club,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the number one runner because it's. I guess they're not quite the prestige that they used to be back in the day. So everyone's cheering for me as I go by. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to score your team any points, but we're going through this course. This is cross country. California gets a rep of not the greatest cross country running. Oh, those are easy courses. This course was gnarly, and they trick you because the first mile was solid.
Yeah.
We went off low 5 minutes and felt good. You go down this crazy hill, and I'm talking, you can't even run quick down this hill because you're braking. You corkscrew, then you go into very just uneven terrain, gnarly hills. I'd say halfway through, most of the people were starting to fade. I felt good, so I kept pushing. That was the wrong move because hills just kept coming. I was like, where's the downhill?
It's an all uphill course.
Basically, that's what it seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
So finished off, I think in the last 400 meters, there was one or two people that were actually passed out on the ground. One guy was like throwing up. It was just taking out really good runners. Finished through. We made it through the first race.
Awesome.
And now we're here. We're
Yes.
going to keep rolling.
And you're getting ready for a couple half marathons.
Couple halves. And
Yeah.
we talked about this
Yeah.
because the goal of this right now is I want to get a half marathon PR. I've got two in line, one in November, the Santa Barbara half, and then one in December, the San Diego Holiday half, which is a very fast course.
Uh-huh.
So maybe we can bounce back a little bit more with your pro coaching knowledge. What is your philosophy on the half marathon racing, especially right now? We're looking at about 3-ish, a little bit more than 3 months out. What should I be focusing on right now with just having base, a little bit of unstructured miles, and how should I start approaching these next few months?
Longer tempo stuff.
Longer tempo.
And then, your basic Ks and mile reps.
Okay.
And then throw in some quarters here or there.
Okay. Maybe get a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of turnover would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. But it's pretty basic workouts.
What is your philosophy on the long run in terms of, do you like, because I've done both over the years.
Yeah.
I feel like in my younger age, I was hammering long runs. These days, I tend to just get volume in, don't hammer as much, and if anything, use my hard days for the workouts. Are you
Yeah, same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to do anything long and easy on the weekend, and then midweek, if you want to go like a 12 or 14, maybe 16 miler,
Yeah.
and if you're feeling good,
get some
pick it
turnover
up.
there?
Yeah, just start picking it up. Not race pace or anything like that, but
Yeah.
faster than you do on Sundays.
Yeah.
And then 2 workouts.
Yeah.
And make sure you take like 1 day a week, really easy.
Yeah.
Usually, the reason we started working out on Saturday mornings early, is to keep people from partying too much on Friday night. But the other thing too is most of the people in our group work full time.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are married and stuff like that. So having 1 day a week where there's no pressure to run,
Right.
and you can spend the evening, go on date night with your wife or husband, or spend time with the kids or stuff like that, and the family is a priority, and it's not all about you when you're running. That goes a long ways towards, when it is all about your running.
Yeah.
People are a lot more receptive to allowing you to do that.
Right.
But anyways, I'm glad you're healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, get through this season and, healthy and good and ready to go.
I know. It's
and then
exciting.
go from there. But all the strength that you're developing in the fall should really help you out in the spring.
Yeah.
I would think.
And I'd say, if anything, for people out there who are injured, I was surprised at how quick, I basically only had about 3 or 4 months of really good, solid training. Right. And I'm feeling maybe fitter than ever. Just sometimes that break is sometimes
like that
needed.
8-month break.
Yeah.
Just healed everything up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Yeah. So what's next? We've had a lot of good races recently.
Yeah, a ton of races.
Yeah. I mean, really all summer, but in the last month from the one that got me excited was the Fifth Ave Mile.
Yeah.
We saw Josh Kerr and Schweizer.
Yep.
And if you looked closely on Schweizer's feet, there was a mysterious shoe. I think a lot of people were asking, what is this? There's been no confirmation, but you didn't hear it here, but it seems to be a Streakfly Proto. We've seen the Streakfly in the past, lighter, lower to the ground, Vaporfly. But this new one, just from the looks of what we've seen on feet, in the pictures, it looks pretty wild.
Yeah.
So if you take a look at your screen, you can see what we have here. And from what it looks like, it appears to be ZoomX foam. I can't tell if it's plated or not. The
I
first
can't tell if it's
version
plated,
had
but
like the little stiffening agent in it, but I think the Shriek Fly was good in concept originally, but it missed in a few elements. It didn't quite have the magic feel of Vaporfly. I'm a lot more optimistic for this shoe, and the fact that we're seeing pros wear it in these shorter distance races means it's working.
It works, and it's not a super stacked shoe.
No,
it's a moderately stacked shoe.
Yeah. If anything, really on the lower side.
Yeah, it's on the lower side, but it's still,
shoes.
I mean, it looks pretty exciting.
Yeah.
If she's wearing it in a mile,
Yep.
yeah, maybe they're onto something.
Yeah, 1,500, 5K.
What's Kerr wearing?
And Kerr's wearing the Hyperion Elite.
Okay.
Which that's been a proven shoe for him. And I know some people like to say, Brooks is far behind and in the foam
foams,
compound. Yeah. But I think this goes to show that, maybe it doesn't mean quite as much if you have the fitness. Kerr is a fantastic athlete, and he's doing great things in this shoe. We've also heard that Brooks has a new compound coming. So I believe the next super shoe you see will be quite an upgrade as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But Schweizer's shoe, I don't know, are we going to be able to show it?
She wore it.
Yeah.
She wore it in the race, so I think we can at least show the picture of her wearing it.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Let's see. What do we got? What else we got here?
So I think we gotta answer the internet, Joe. I know you've been scouring the internet for all the craziest people, craziest questions. What do you got this week?
Well, we got a couple things from Let's Run, and as much as it pains me to read a lot of the stuff, sometimes you get some stuff that's kind of interesting. But let's see. Kundalini Jellyfish writes, if running form matters, who would say stands to benefit the most? So it goes on to say, I realize a lot, maybe even the majority of runners think you sort of fall into your best form over time since efficiency, metabolic supply, and demand is best when not thinking about it. I'm not here to debate you if it's relevant, only asking if it's in fact significant what a runner has the most upside based on subpar form, other than Drew Hunter. Okay. Well,
a little jab to Drew.
Yeah, a little jab. I'm probably going to take a little bit different take on this. Most of the time, and I can go through and read all these threads, but most of the people looking at form tend to focus on the upper body. Mm-hmm. And I think probably one of the best examples of that, two really good examples, is I tend to focus more on from the hips down.
Okay.
And when you look at it from that standpoint, pretty much everyone that's good has really similar form from the waist down. Yeah. Turnover's about 180, maybe a little bit more than that. But I think the biggest support on this is the 2000 Olympic 10,000 final, where you're watching Gaber Selassie, who's about 3 feet tall, versus Terragat, who's about 8 feet tall. And they're running side by side, and they have exactly the same turnover over the last mile. Right. So there's something to be said there. And I don't know the science behind it. I don't know anything about it. But when you watch the Olympic finals and all distance races from 1,500 to the marathon, everyone's got 180 or above. Yeah. So let's just start there. Yeah. Now, people are going to, flame me and all this. Well, what about this person? Well, yeah maybe this one person, but generally speaking, there's always outliers. But generally speaking, it's 180. Yeah. And before I would have athletes, I just found out recently that you can get cadence off your Garmin.
Yes.
But I don't wear a Garmin. I wear a Timex, and so whatever that's worth. But so when you're on a tempo run, what I used to do for myself and have my athletes do is count how many times my right arm would go down over the course of 10 seconds. Yeah. And I'd want it to be 15 seconds or faster. Mm-hmm. So 15 seconds for 10 seconds, or 15 rights for 10 seconds is 90 times 2 is 180. Mm-hmm. So that's generally what you want to be at. And if it's less than that and you're running at a pretty good clip, like a tempo run, you're probably overstriding. Okay. So that's where I start with that. Now, you also have the thing where, and I don't know why swimmers do this, but high school swimmers, when they come out, have this running motion like this. Mm-hmm. Their arms go side to side, and that's really inefficient. So you want everything to go forwards and backwards, and you work on that over time. Right. A lot of the people that are commenting on form, one of the reasons you do form drills, warm-up drills, is to work on form. Yeah. So you do that over time, and it's no secret why most competitive distance runners have really good form, because they're doing warm-up drills 2 or 3 times a week, and they're doing a lot of them. And it sticks over time. It just does. I mean, I get people that have come out recently that didn't come from a competitive running background, that run marathons and half marathons, and they want to take the next step and get into this competitive running thing. And I have them do form drills, and within a year, their form is significantly different than it was when they got much more efficient. Yep. They're much more comfortable running tall, their foot landing under the center of mass, good arm swing, and just a better, now they're not all perfect, but they're improved.
Yeah. I've seen that a few times with some inexperienced runners coming out, and the drills mixed with adding a lot of volume. I've seen just crazy differences in efficiencies, and as fitness gets better, they add more volume, they do the drills. It's almost like a whole new runner.
Yeah, same thing with strides.
Yeah,
strides in there
as well. Yep.
Right, and hill runs.
Yep.
Because it's hard to run uphill with crappy foot. You don't. It's really difficult to run uphill.
Yep.
I know over stride.
Yep.
Your body just says no. Shorten up that stride. So that's the first thing on Let's Run. The other one is from May the Shoe Be With You, which is kind of interesting because James Earl Jones passed away recently. He was a voice of Darth Vader. But regards to that, Clayton Young's Super Shoe approach. In the final episode of Paris Olympic Build YouTube series, Clayton Young says he puts hundreds and hundreds of miles on a single pair of super shoes. Question: how many miles/kilometers have you taken your race shoes?
This is a great question.
Yeah, and I'll let you address this.
Well, this can vary.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of different things. So myself personally, if I really like a race shoe, there's been a few prototype shoes that I've gotten with some really awesome PIBA foams that never hit the market or were very experimental. I've tested shoes upwards of like racing shoes, 400, 500 miles if I really like the shoe. And yes, after about 100 miles, you do notice a little bit
you
of
lose the pop.
Yeah. But with how good these foams are getting, even with 300 miles on them, they're still doing really well. And in most cases, you might have an upper blowout or something before, or even like an outsole wear before the midsole goes. So the foams are getting really good.
Yeah.
And it also depends on what foam you have in the shoe, because when we saw the original Endorphin Pro with the beaded Power Run PB, we heard from some of the testers at Saucony that they were getting test pairs back with 800, 900 miles on them. Would you recommend that? No. But it's showing that it's possible, and if you like the shoe, people are willing to put extra miles in. I've done some shoes in the 700, 800 range that are more trainers with some of these PIBA foams, and surprisingly, these shoes are holding up a lot longer than you should. What do we recommend? I would say for a racing shoe, if you're going to go peak race, try to get 20 to 40 miles in before your peak race, feel it out, and then be for sure under 100 miles. And then after 100 miles, you can use it as a workout shoe. You can use it as maybe a not as important race shoe because it'll have a little less pop. Still a really good shoe. I think upwards of 200, maybe even 300 miles, you can probably get out, no problem.
Yeah, for sure. But what he's saying is, I don't think he's saying he's racing in these things for a couple hundred miles.
Right.
He's using them for workouts and stuff like that.
Yes.
He probably gets as many shoes as he wants for free, but, you know, maybe he's just a frugal guy, storing them in his closet or something like that.
You never know. He did show us when we met up with him, he has a lot of prototypes. He gets a lot of things that he's
into shoes.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very possible that if he got a pair of Metaspeeds that he really liked that had a certain geometry and angle and foam, that he said, hey, I'm going to put a lot of miles on these. And yeah, it's interesting. But
Todd brought that up. Todd from Puma.
Yes.
When we were in Boston.
Yep.
It was either Boston or Paris, one of the two. But the fact that their newest foam in, I want to say the Deviate Elite 3 or 4, it's not out yet.
Yeah, so it would have been the 4 then.
Yeah. So that foam, as far as the pop, is lasting 200 to 250 miles.
Wow.
It maintains up to 85 or 90% of its pop up to that distance.
Yep.
And it holds its pop longer during a race too.
Yes.
Versus like a 4% goes down to 70% in a race. The Puma stays at about 85% through the end of a marathon.
Okay.
And it also lasts longer as far as, once
Right.
once you let it recover.
Right.
That's the other thing is a lot of people don't let their shoes recover.
Right.
It's just, it helps.
Yeah, and I know Puma, with their foam, they were really looking at that metric, and that's something that isn't looked at very often because of the fact that a lot of testing, you're not going to be testing at mile 20 of a race, but that is one of the most important parts of the race. That's really where the race starts.
Yeah.
So if you're losing a lot of energy return for the last 6 miles, that's not a good thing to have in your shoe. So,
Right. I
interesting.
mean, there's some really cool racing flats coming down the pipe.
Yes.
You
So
wanna talk about this?
we do have one right here. We can finally talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
The embargo has dropped. We've got a couple videos now, deep dives on the site. This is the Adios Pro 4. So we saw the Adios Pro really make big jumps year after year. Version 3 was the best yet. And then we saw the Evo. The Evo was
crazy.
The pinnacle race shoe, the lightest super shoe on the market. Everyone wanted a pair. You couldn't get a pair. They made, like, the amount of pairs that were on the market are mind-blowingly low. So if you got a pair, you had to pay $500, but you're a pretty special person. It's cool.
And what's that going to go for?
We'll have to check. I believe it's a $250.
Okay.
So, well, we should verify this for the people. Yeah, $250.
Right. But at that weight?
Yeah.
With that foam?
Great shoe.
It was fantastic.
And we got a lot
shoe.
of options. And some more shoes to come. We just released our Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 video. Still not a whole lot of information on the foam compound on that shoe.
But that shoe is amazing.
Amazing. And I talked a little bit in depth, but there's more to come. But when you get this shoe on your foot, we only got an individual shoe.
We have one.
We have one individual
it's
shoe.
right next to your desk.
It's right next to my desk, under key and lock. I know everyone's making good super shoes right now.
This thing is nuts.
This foam is different. Whatever they did with this foam, it is so soft, so explosive off toe off. If you've seen, like, if you think you know what a super shoe can be, this will change your mind of, okay, we've got further to go in the super shoe space.
And when's this one come out?
March 1st.
And
I will say it has released. The shoe released in very limited pairs this summer. It was a little bit under the table. Saucony sold them on their site. But I would guess the amount of pairs on the market, you probably will never see one in person until the mass release come March.
Okay. And what's that one going to go for? Is that $250?
That one I believe is a $275.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that thing is great.
Yeah.
Very exciting shoe.
Yep. So, is that all we got to answer the internet?
Yeah, that's all we have to answer the internet. I mean, there's another thing on there that we could just go into quickly, but do you buy used running shoes? And I've said this before, don't buy used running shoes because you don't know how many miles are on them.
Yes. Where they've been sitting, where they've been stored.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
And even the shoes that you have by your desk.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to put those on the market, somebody might buy them, but you have no idea how much wear is on those things.
Right.
And particularly super shoes.
Right.
Racing shoes, there's no way. I mean, the whole reason you're paying is for the first 20, 30, 40 miles.
Yeah.
It's not for 500 miles into the thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the flip side of things, I will say, if anything, with maybe some younger athletes who don't have the disposable income for $250, $275, you might be able to find something for really cheap that, at least you can get started. And I almost say that in the, in the watch space, if you're maybe trying to get into like a higher end watch, you might start with something vintage, a little bit older, get the feel. And we'll maybe get into this a little bit later with some of this. Actually, it rounds off to our next topic. Perfectly.
Well, actually, yeah, it does. I do have a watch story.
Oh, you did? Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
I think we'll get there because I think this will work perfectly.
Okay. All right. We'll go your way. Okay.
Okay. So first on up, we've had Eric's shoe closet. We've had maybe Joe's shoe closet, Kevin's shoe closet, Connor's shoe closet. This week, we've got Dave Wottle's shoe closet.
Oh, geez.
Now, Dave Wottle, gold medal Olympic champion, 1972, 800 meters. Give us, what's your backstory with Dave Wottle? Have you met him before? Do you know anything about?
No, he's from, well, I don't know if he's from, but he ran for Bowling Green.
Yep.
I believe he was or is the athletic director at Bowling Green. Seems like a really nice gentleman.
Yep.
Looked like he kicked to win that 800, but he ran even splits.
Yes.
I think all 4 200s were the same time.
So that's what he's known for.
Yeah.
It's the 800 meter at 72.
And he won at the line.
Yeah.
And he wore a golf hat.
Yes.
Yes.
He is very well known for the golf hat.
Yeah.
So Dave Wottle decided to put a lot of his historic collection up for auction online. I am scouring anything cool like this. I am going to be all over. And if you want to bring up some of the images I sent you, we've got some crazy stuff. So
yeah,
the first shoe, this is the 1972 Munich shoe. This is like the custom Adidas shoe that he wore on the race line. Now, it's blue. It's the classic blue striped Adidas shoe, but this was custom made. I guess him and Frank Shorter at the Olympic Village met up with an Adidas rep. They asked, what do you want? They cobbled together this shoe, and this was the shoe that he wore. Super lightweight, 7-pin layout, but I guess they didn't do their homework. They weren't quite as with the rules that we have today. Everyone's all about stack heights. There was a 6-pin limit at the Munich Olympics. So Dave Wottle showed up to the final with 7 pins in his shoe.
Yeah, you can't do that.
The German official said, if you step on that track, you will be DQ'd like that. So him, a German athlete, a British athlete, all were
doing
undoing, and they didn't have a spike wrench. So they're hand unwinding it. They got it done. They got onto the track, and he went on to win gold. A crazy story. And Joe, what's the price tag we see there?
$15,860, which seems pretty reasonable to me.
A lot of money, but that's a piece of history right there.
It is a piece of history. And you asked me once why we had blanks in spikes, in the old spikes.
Yeah.
And because it was, they put 7 receptacles in there, and 6 was the rules in high school and college and everything. So you had, I don't know why they put 7 in there if you can only use, but anyways, they give you it was a blank.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But the other thing that we have here, which is quite interesting, is the hat. I don't know that this is actually the hat.
So that got me interested, because when we look at the price tag of this hat, $1,700.
Yeah.
That seems way too cheap for the official Dave Wottle golf hat. This was actually given to all members of the 1972 Olympic team. Dave Wottle, known for the golf hat. His original, I guess, is actually on loan with the National Track Association.
It's at the Smithsonian or something
at the museum
like that.
or something. So you can still see that. But a pretty cool piece of history. I guess he raced a few big races in this one, and I don't know, $1,700 to me for a hat seems a little pricey. It's very well worn. What do you think? Would you drop this bag for this hat?
No.
Doesn't get the Joe approval?
No. Well, it's not very expensive, but there's not any emotional attachment on that one to me.
But maybe the Olympic gold hat you.
For $1,700, that'd be without question.
Yeah. Okay, this is where we'll get to your watch history. So, right here we've got this is a 1972 Longines. This was actually the Olympian model. Longines had a watch called the Olympian. This was a special edition. You got the automatic movement. You've got the gold bezel, the classic 70s look, the day date. But if you look at the dial, it says U.S. Olympic Team 1972. This was given to every member of the 1972 Olympic team. Very limited quantities, very cool piece. If you're a collector of watches, if you like history, if you like to have something that no one else has.
That seems pretty inexpensive.
$4,200? Not bad.
No, not at all. So my watch story revolved back in Portugal.
Okay.
So when I was in Ediceta, I was walking around and I decided I want to get some dinner.
Yep.
And there's a couple of restaurants that are known for their fish. Now, Ediceta, like a bunch of things, is a fishing village. Mm-hmm. So, the fish is pretty good there.
Yep.
So I go into this restaurant and I go to ask the guy for a table. And he says, "How many?" I said, "Just one." And he goes, "Well, we're booked. We don't have any room." And the guy who was at the bar was the guy who owned the hotel where I was staying. Oh. And he says, "Hey, he's staying with me. Can you get him a table?" He says, "Okay, sure." So he gives me a table. Pregundo, okay? Yeah, number 1. So he gives me that. And to my left are this couple, and they're having dinner. And it's an older gentleman and a younger woman, and I thought it was maybe possibly an uncle and a niece or something along those lines, but it was a husband and wife. And we were talking, and the guy asked me where I was from, and I told him, and then I asked him where he was from, and he said, I live in Milan. And I go, you don't sound Italian. He goes, well, I grew up going to school at American universities overseas. And then he asked me what I did, and I told him, I was like Al Bundy. I sold running shoes. And then I asked him what he did, and he told me that he was a broker of fine timepieces. And I said, what does that mean exactly? He says, I sell expensive watches. Yeah. And I said, like as an example, he says, well, you probably heard of Rolex and Patek Philippe. Yeah, and I'd never heard of, I heard of Rolex, but not Patek Philippe. I had no idea what the hell that was. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, I'm wearing one right here. And I said, so if you don't mind me asking, how much does that watch go for? He goes, well, this is the least expensive one we sell. And I said, how much is it? He goes, $40,000. $40,000? And he goes, they go up to $1 million. Oh, yeah. And I said, you sell those? He goes, yeah, I'm the number one broker of these watches in Europe.
Wow.
And he sells vintage, historical pieces, and new stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he started telling me all about that segment of the watch thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I got back here, a bunch of people just got back from the U.S. Open, and there's a guy who actually has a YouTube channel on the watches of the tennis players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This whole thing on Roger Federer having the first, I don't even know what the hell the thing is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And there is, between the watch culture, high-end watch culture, and the shoe culture, the shoe geeks, there's a lot of overlaps in the type of people. You're very specific about your drop. You're very specific about your movement in your watch. It's a very it's a very close attention to detail. And it's interesting to see. It's a cool culture. It's an expensive culture. But I think if you'd worn that Wottle Longines watch, you might have impressed that guy.
I might have, but I said I don't know anything about watches. I'm wearing a $20 Timex. He goes, yeah, I'm aware. So,
like runners, the first thing we do is look at the running shoes. Yeah. Watch people; they're going to look at your wrist.
Yes, the gentleman's name is Max Bernardini.
Okay,
so he's
if you're looking for a nice
$40,000 timepiece, he's your guy.
He's your guy.
What's this leather we have here?
This is the final piece of the Wottle collection that I wanted to share, and I thought this was unique. $550 letter.
Right.
So you're like, okay, that's a good amount of money for a piece of paper, but what is written on the paper is what's interesting. So this is from Bowerman, the legend himself, and I guess it appears that Dave was maybe talking with a sports journalist, and there was maybe he was trying to get some details. And Bowerman says, Dear Dave, I've never met Jim Fursell. Perhaps he is completely legitimate as a sports writer, but if he is trying to dig up something to write sensationally about, why doesn't he write about you're breaking all of the records and you're going on to the gold medal? And then below that, he writes, he handwrites out, he says, Dave, if you want Fursell to have my communication, send it, or toss it in the waistband, or toss it in the wastebasket. So a little bit of humor there at the end, but it is interesting because we see this a lot right now with the journalists love to write up the crazy stories. They love to
dig up the dirt
on Jakob, on Kerr. So things in 50 years really haven't changed too much.
No, they haven't. Sensationalism is all over the place. So one of the things that was interesting, and I've known about this for a long time, is a Wall Street Journal article recently on run clubs.
Oh, no.
And how it's a place to find a date. And we've been putting on pub runs for, I don't know, a long time. And people in the building, they're moping about not being able to get a date. So go to a pub run. I mean, how hard can this be? You got people that are relatively fit. You have similar interests.
Yep.
And you just go up and talk to people. And maybe you hit it off with somebody and something like that. But it's a really low stress environment.
Yes.
And there's no pressure to do anything other than talk to people.
Yeah.
Or you don't even have to do that. Just have a beer. So now the big thing is these run clubs. And you experienced this down in San Diego, right?
Oh, yeah. It is wild. We hit up a few, and there's two types of run clubs. I'll start with the first one, the social run club, and we heard about Pacific Beach Run Club. I guess it's the one to go to. We didn't really know what to expect. I heard get your main run out of the way in the morning, get your 10 miles. This is going to be a 3 mile, and it's slow, it's fun. You're there to meet people. So we show up. I mean, I was not expecting 200 people were there, maybe more. Everyone shows up, and it was like guys showed up in groups of guys, and women showed up, and everyone there is there to meet other people. There's no couples there. It's game on.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a fun time. We met a lot of people. We stopped every 6 or 7 minutes, and you just talk with people, have a good time. I don't think anyone here was a serious runner. Like, no one knew who I was, and that was quite a difference from the next group of clubs. So race day, all the top San Diego clubs are there at the race, and I'm getting stopped pretty much left and right, taking the selfies, getting on a little Instagram story.
So this is like the San Diego Track Club kind of
exactly
people, that cross-country race.
And it got to a point where I'm like, this is fun, but I got to race in like 25 minutes, so I got to finish this warm-up. But that is all about, it's serious, it's workouts. I had a few people ask, like, hey, you should come out and train with us, because they had a really solid group of runners, and that it's two very different but cool in their own way. So I could definitely see adding both. If I was in San Diego, I would probably hit up both of them.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, to get more people out running.
Yeah.
I don't know, somebody had emailed me when I was at UTMB and said, it's all the rage and stuff like that. I said, whatever. I mean, we got thousands of people that are interested in running and watching running. I don't see anything wrong with that.
No.
It was really awesome.
Yeah.
But the Run Club article in the journal was just saying, if you wear black, it means that you're single and interested. If you wear a black shirt. So imagine showing up in a black shirt and you're neither.
Oh, no. Well, that actually does bring up the point at Pacific Beach Run Club. There was a guy in all black. I don't know if he got the memo, but he had a massive speaker backpack. He ran the whole 3 miles. It was probably a 20-pound backpack. And he blasted music so loud that I was like, how are the cops not coming here? This is a moving party all along, and everywhere we went, people are cheering. It was just like, this is the place to be on, I think it was Wednesday night in Pacific Beach. If you're there, show up for the party.
So that kind of ties into my story about the UTMB, because you had the same thing. You had thousands of people, right? And guys going up the hill with 25-pound backpacks of speakers playing techno music super loud. I don't know. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah,
but
it adds fun. I mean, that's at the end of the day, running sometimes doesn't get a good rep for maybe a little more boring or an individual sport, but when you do it like that, it's a fun time.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's what we have for the day.
Yeah, I mean,
we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. I think the craziness is maybe dying down a little bit now. And we got to rest because more things are coming.
We got running event
in November.
That's November. I got a phone call from my buddy Dave Frank yesterday, who threw out attending the NCAA Division I cross country finals with him and a bunch of Stanford idiots.
That'll be cool.
So I'm considering that. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
3 or 4 days with a bunch of dorks watching. I haven't done Division I.
That would be cool.
But it sounds like a pretty good time. It's right outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So,
and we've had a couple emails with some pretty high-profile guests. So I think we are getting a little, maybe a little ahead of ourselves. But I am excited for a few people we might have on the show in the future.
We have some pretty good people, excellent people in their fields.
Yeah.
As athletes and people within the industry.
Yeah.
They're coming on. But in the meantime, you get us two knuckleheads. And
what do they got to do, Joe?
That's right. They got to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll do our best to respond as we can. Maybe provide truthful answers and those types of things. But
perfect.
Anyways, thank you, sir.
Until next time.
All right. Peace out.